Absolute Batman has been a wild ride over the last couple of issues. Since the last time I covered it here on the channel, we have had many confrontations as well as reveals of other rogues from the usual Batman mythos getting absolute versions of themselves to the point of it being almost, or sometimes, sheer nightmare fuel. And recently Scott Snyder tweeted out what Absolute Joker actually looks like. I'm not going to show it here because I'm probably going to make a video on it once that comic is fully released, but I'll tell you what, it ain't pretty. But today I'm going to go over briefly issues 9 through 12 of Absolute Batman with the general events that have occurred throughout it, plus you know the basic information and events that have occurred over the issues over the last couple of months. But before we jump into things, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. Really helps and it shows you guys enjoy the content I make here on the channel and shows you want to see more. I want to try and do more Batman stuff. I've been getting a lot more into Batman recently and I really want to talk about it more. But let's jump right into things. So Absolute Batman issue 9 essentially has Bruce talking with his friends and Alfred, trying to figure out what happened to Whan, as at the end of issue 8, he was abducted by agents from Arkham and basically being taken for human experimentation. And so Bruce has to break into Arkham with help from Alfred, but Alfred has concerns as he is afraid of what he could end up finding due to what he knows about Arkham and how he went through something similar with the disappearance of a friend and him coming back somewhat differently. Batman breaks into Arkham. He eventually finds this whole underground, facility that almost looks like its own miniaturized city underground. And so now Batman is trying to go through it to find Whan, to find his friend. And through this, we also get introduced to Absolute Bane. And this man is a towering menace over Batman. He is like 9 feet tall, incredibly muscular. And so he begins to face off against Batman. And so Batman is basically outmatched because every single time he tries to fight Bane, Bane quickly counters and reads Batman's every move to the point of using pressure points to make it so that he can't move some of his limbs. And I love how Batman is trying to talk like Bane is doping himself up to fight, but Bane's like, oh, no, this is just me. You want to see me doped up on Venom? Here you go. And he like, my lord, this is insane nightmare fuel. He's like, I think he's as big as if not taller than the Hulk in this instance, because my god, Batman is the size of Bane's thigh in this. Absolute Bane is towering over Batman and his whole hand is grabbing onto Bruce's body as he knocks him out and he gets taken in by Arkham. Really quick to note from that generalization of issue 9, not only was the fight fantastic, but it showed just how overwhelming Absolute Bane is. He's not just an absolute unit. He's not insanely strong. That's not what makes Bane so dangerous only. What makes Bane dangerous is what he showed in this issue. He is not only a proficient martial artist with knowledge of pressure points, but he was able to outsmart and read Batman like a book. Bane is an insanely intelligent character. A lot of people tend to forget that with the whole, doping up on Venom thing to get super big, buff, and strong. But Bane is an incredibly intelligent character, and Absolute Bane showcases that to an absolute T, and it is fantastic. But this leads into issue 10, where Bruce is stripped of his Batman suit and experimented on and put in isolation in Arkham to be viewed by the doctors and professors and the scientists in Arkham, as they've been doing to many other people, as we will soon see. As they actually find a bunch of smoke pellets, extra batarangs and knives and stuff like that, multiple different weapons embedded in Bruce's body. They're not super specific if it's just in his skin or in his bones, but they dug out so many extra materials because we knew that Absolute Batman was not just an absolute unit in terms of being jacked as hell, but he had to be a lot more resourceful with the limited amount of funds he has and at least be creative with what he has. But the fact that he doesn't have just a straight up utility belt, but unlike actual Batman, for the most part, he embedded all these different gadgets and materials inside his own freaking body. That is hard as hell, and he's just a regular killer dude still. That is something. But throughout this issue, we primarily see everything from the perspective of the scientists. They're trying to break Bruce. They're trying to get him to basically be compliant with everything they're doing. Not only did they shave him, but they're trying to put him through so many different experiments. Bruce just tries multiple times to break free. One instance, he manages to use his toenails and even some teeth to make actual brass knuckles so that he can bash people in with makeshift weapons to manage to break free. And even uses like the feeding tube they have to basically utilize his own stomach acid to launch at people to melt their faces off, to the point where he would try and break free. And we see multiple different escape attempts from Bruce. And throughout these escape attempts, we end up getting to see what seems to be absolute versions of a lot of his rogues. He's caught in this first real escape from what seems to be absolute Clayface, as he's just part of the ground and takes him on. We see at one point this tree-looking thing, which could potentially be absolute poison ivy, as it talks about the green. And we all know that poison ivy is a part of the green in the mainline universe, just like Swamp Thing, one of the natural forces of the DC universe. So there's that. Now, I'm not sure where we'll end up seeing Absolute Scarecrow at some point, but this issue is absolutely insane because not only are we seeing multiple escape attempts from Batman to get out, but failing and getting caught by Bane at the end of the day, we're seeing some of his rogues being created in Arkham, all interspliced with flashbacks between him and Selina, and talking about him and Whan, how they're best friends, and how Bruce is basically his trainer to help him get set up for a fight that he probably can't win. And right in a most recent attempt, after his most recent attempt, he seems to be broken. He seems to not want to do it anymore. But after they basically grafted him with what seems like venom by injecting a specific device within him, from what we can tell, to have him implanted with venom so he can be similar to Bane, they leave one last test to see his willpower, to see if he'll break free, and they give him his bat suit fully intact, as Bruce seems like he might be broken, all while we get instances of his mother looking for him, because he's been missing for months at this point. And as Bruce is just trying to tell himself that it's over and that he can't win, he eventually looks at the suit again, puts it on, and breaks out of his cell. And he sees so many of these honest monstrosities of people that they've used as lab rats, all asking for his help, and he doesn't know how to make it stop, how to make the hurt stop for them, as Absolute Bane appears, and the two of them begin to fight, as Bane then begins to use his venom to keep breaking down Batman. But he pushes Batman and breaks in one of the containers of a giant egg that we have seen in this issue, and jumping out of it and launching Bane across the room is absolute Killer Croc. And this is what happened to Whan over the course of the time that he's been taken and all of Batman's incarceration in Arkham. They successfully changed Waylon Jones into absolute Killer Croc, and my lord, is he a monstrosity. Not only is he a towering menace over Bruce, but he also has a jaw that not just goes from his usual jaw, but down his neck to his torso. It is nightmare fuel, my lord. I did not know Absolute Killer Croc was going to be like this. He looks like a literal dinosaur, but with just like this massive jaw, because holy hell is this insanity. But as he goes up to Bruce and seems like he might be killing him, Bruce then mounts Killer Croc. As Whan recognizes Bruce, despite everything that happened, he recognizes Bruce, and so the two of them make it out and go to escape Arkham, as we get the reveal that one of the heads of this Arkham project is Dr. Arkham, what seems to be a descendant of Dr. Arkham in this universe, or something. But Bane is getting ready to now hunt down Batman, as this leads us straight into issue 11. Now, issue 11 is actually a Bane-centric issue, as through narration from Alfred, we get to see now that not only Bane is going to search to find Batman, but we get a glimpse of Bane's whole backstory. He was raised as a revolutionary son in Santa Prisca, in an area of just constant civil war, to break free, to try and make their country what it's supposed to be. And so Bane would continuously listen to his father, and his father would train him up so that they can free their homeland. But eventually they're caught and put in prison for years. And throughout this, Bane is constantly thinking about the image of the bird that is supposed to be the symbol of their nation and of their revolution. And Bane can't really see it, only a skull bird that seems to be something different. But Bane ends up essentially recruiting all the prisoners and helping in an escape plan. All of them break free. They get out from this prison, and Bane ends up getting his iconic mask that is actually the skull bird that he sees in his vision when his father would talk to him. And so after breaking out of this prison, getting on life rafts to make it back home, it's not what they expected. Instead of an army or a militia, they see a man in a white suit with many beautiful women in bikinis who asks to talk to Bane as he has an offer with him. And so we see Bane talking quickly to what it seems to be this version's Joker. And so they talk, and then Joker leaves. And the father wasn't sure if his son would take up his offer and betray his country. And so he gives a hug to his son. But Bane ends up saying he sees what his father sees, the dream of peace, and then snaps his father's back, killing him. As now, Bane has essentially become more or less a hired gun for the Joker, going through so many of these different experiments, taking on all of these different acts of destruction, assassinations, political enemies, or those that are in his way, or people that are in the way of the Joker's affiliates. And we also learned that the venom that Bane has, that is constantly injected into his system, gives him complete control over his muscles to even the smallest degree, which is astounding, as it also enhances his mind, which makes him think quicker and perceive things faster. It is incredible, as now he's going off to find Bruce, as now it seems we're cutting to present day, as Bane tries to break into Batman's safe house. But Batman is waiting for him as he jumps out towards Bane as they begin a rematch. And so we see instances of Batman and Bane clashing, and Batman getting Bane in a position surrounded by different cars, as Batman launches a bunch of explosives from the cars to try and engulf and take down or incapacitate Bane. But it does nothing, and all that's left is Bane beating the ever-loving hell out of Batman. And after doing so, he grabs Batman's axe, chops off his arm, and tries to beat him down even more. And as Bruce seemingly is trying to be undeterred, he's getting his face bashed in by his own bat symbol from his own axe, his own chest plate, as eventually he begins to plead for help, to tell him to stop, until it seems that he has completely destroyed Bruce's skull, bashing it in. As Bane takes Bruce back to Arkham as they complete their experiments to basically put him through the exact same thing that they did to Bane, with even Alfred continuing to narrate throughout all of this, saying that there would be promises of Bruce similar to Bane, of having a family, of looking off at where things are to see what things have become. But as we cut to an image of a monstrosity nightmare Bane-esque Batman holding a giant gun towering over a gargoyle in Gotham. But that is the reveal that was never what happened. Instead, Bane went after Bruce's friends in order to get him: Oswald Cobblepot, Harvey Dent, and Edward Nygma. As that ends issue 11, as we head off towards issue 12. And this starts right after the escape with Killer Croc, as after they manage to seemingly get out of Arkham, Bruce and Wayland talk, as Wayland tells him that he saved Bruce and now Bruce has to save him. Bruce is trying to say that he'll do everything he can to find a cure to turn him back to normal, but Wayland tells him that's not what he means. The hunger hurts him, it's unquenchable, and so he wants Bruce to end him. And while Bruce is protesting, Wayland begs him over and over to do it, and it seems that Bruce might actually kill his friend to put him out of his misery, but he couldn't. And it's then that Wayland grabs the bat dagger and tries to stab himself in the head to put himself out of his misery, but Bruce couldn't bear to see his friend go through this or die, and stops him, and Wayland roars at him, saying something heartbreaking, that he should have left Bruce in Arkham in the first place, as Wayland goes off, now Absolute Killer Croc, to God knows where, as it seems that their friendship has ended. It was then cut to the Batcave, where Bruce wakes up with Alfred by him, still shaven, with everything that's happened to him, with the reveal of the delivery system of the venom that's within Bruce's body that Arkham planted in him. And it turns out after Batman made it back to his safe house, he's been out for 20 whole days. And so Bruce ends up leaving to go and find and see his mother, as we get intercut instances of the venom slowly beginning to be part and circulate in his body, seemingly as he is beginning to go through a type of adjustment to the system. And he finally meets his mother for the first time in so long after disappearing, and she's so glad that they found him. But she mentions something that happened to Oswald, and so Bruce isn't sure what she means, but he goes with Gordon, with help from Bullock, who is now commissioner, to go see Ollie. And what we see is this big amorphous blob-esque man that was formerly Oswald Cobblepot, as it's revealed that someone broke all of his bones, but incredibly strategically, as to make sure that his vital organs have not been injured or burned or destroyed at all or punctured. It was so precise, as now when he recovers, Oswald is going to be 2 feet shorter and in constant agony, as this is the first look at what will eventually truly become Absolute Penguin, and it is heart-wrenching to see. And as we get the explanation of what happened, we see a flashback of what Bane did to Oswald the entire time. But then we get the reveal that it wasn't just Oz, but it was also Harvey. And so we see Harvey in the hospital, as it's revealed that someone managed to give him 3rd and 4th degree burns on the left side of his body, and literally fractured his skull to the point where it was like split cleanly in half without damaging his brain. And we see what happened between Bane and Harvey, with what happened to his skull and him being burned by Bane. And so Harvey is going off at Bruce that this is essentially his fault, that this wouldn't have happened because of him, and that now he hates him. But Harvey also says that he only hates him half of the time, showcasing that the split of his personality as Absolute Two-Face being born is there right now. And now we cut to Bruce trying to find Eddie in his own research lab, as we see what happened with Edward Nygma, as we see wires being put into his bare brain, as we get to see that apparently Bane challenged him to a game of riddles and Eddie lost, and so he was beaten down with his frontal lobe broken. And so Eddie had to use his Riddler robot that we saw previously in this run and attach it to himself to now boost his brain power. And so now all of his friends are basically gone. He lost everything, and now they're seemingly going to slowly become the enemies that he would eventually have in the main universe. And Bruce now cut a few hours later, as Batman is telling somebody that appears to be the head of the Red Hood gang to stand down, and that the fight seems to be over. But the guy in the Red Hood says the Red Hood gang will never stop, as Bruce talks with Alfred, as the two of them basically go over the events that happened, and Bruce trying to give up. But Alfred tells him that right now there's no point in giving up, and now that you realize that you're basically dumb for giving up the money from Black Mask, because if he had that money, he probably would have been able to fix things in a different way, or approach things at a later date to make sure that this wouldn't happen to his friends. But as the two of them are discussing about the chaos that's happening in Gotham, and that Bruce basically is in the thick of it, an alarm goes off in the Batcave in the safe house as someone broke in. And so Alfred and Bruce get ready to team up and take on whoever broke in. But then something grabs Alfred by the neck and seemingly knocks him out after a punch and a kick, as we see Batman recognizing who this is, as we end this off with the reveal of Absolute Catwoman Selina Kyle meeting Bruce for the first time in a while with her new outfit, as that's the end of issue 12 of Absolute Batman. Honestly, Absolute Batman has still been in an incredible run, and definitely my favorite book in the Absolute DC universe so far. The utter nightmare fuel that we are getting for the absolute rogues of Batman in this run is insanity. And like I said, Absolute Joker is also an entirely different nightmare in and of its own. But I still highly recommend you guys go and read these in full for any extra details and choice of dialogue. Go get these issues. They are fantastic. And I know the first volume of Absolute Batman Batman is out, just like with Absolute Superman and Absolute Wonder Woman. But all I gotta say at the end of the day is, when Darkseid made this new dimension, he must have really hated Batman after the events of Infinite Crisis, because my god, he is giving Batman the worst time out of any of these heroes in the Absolute Universe so far, and that's saying something with what's happening with Absolute Superman right now. But that's a story for another time. If you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. It really helps and it shows you guys enjoy the content I make here on the channel and shows you want to see more. Again, I'll try and do more Batman videos in the future, but I want to branch off some more DC stuff with other comics, so look forward to that, and let me know any suggestions you'd like to see in the future. With all that said and done, hope you all have an awesome day.